Welcome to Backstage with Geoffrey Morrissey. I am, of course, Geoffrey Morrissey, but even more importantly, I am joined today backstage at the Sinclair with Julia Jacklin. Julia, thank you for making the time.
You're very welcome.
And welcome to Boston. I know that you have a summer date near here, not quite Boston, but Newport Folk. That's really exciting.
Yeah.
Newport is a huge festival in terms of like collaboration, like different artists jump on stage with other people. If you could sort of like take the stage with any band, what would be a band that you would want to sort of play a couple songs with?
Play a couple of songs with. Oh gosh, I don't know. I have just been sitting in a car for like 5 hours. I'm trying to think who I would want to like sing with, or like am I jamming? What am I doing?
If you could like play music, I guess, with one person or a band or something like that.
I'd like to sing a duet with Tom Jones.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be cool.
That's a really good one. I hope that he makes a surprise appearance at Newport Folk.
I don't think he's playing Newport.
I don't think so either, but I mean, then this interview would be even more cool than it already actually is. But one of the artists that is playing, I know that you're a fan of them, Big Thief.
Oh, sweet.
You got to, I was reading an interview where we got to chat with Adrienne a little bit in Germany. What was that sort of like? Because Adrienne and Big Thief, we had her on the show before. That's one of my favorite bands, and I see the parallels between you both.
Oh, it was great, yeah, because I'd been listening to that record so much, just like a week prior to that show, and then I kind of got a last minute. Well, I actually thought it was my show. I was going up to Haldern in Germany, just being like, oh, I'm playing a show. And then my manager's like, oh, actually, sorry, you're supporting someone called Big Thief. Do you know who they are? And I was like, yes, do I? And it was just this really small bar in northern Germany, and it was amazing. And it was just really cool to meet those guys. And yeah, I ended up kind of like staying with them that night and driving to Amsterdam the next day with them. And yeah, they're a great bunch of people, really talented. She's really just an incredible songwriter, so yeah. Well,
I always joke that I think people must think that like they pay me or something, because somehow Big Thief comes up in literally every interview that I do, because they're one of those always like that artists are always listening to, so it's totally really interesting.
It's just a real masterclass in songwriting for me, that record, and I'm really excited about the new one too.
The June 8th is a quick little plug, but your record is incredible as well. Don't Let the Kids Win, 2016 on polyvinyl, of course. I was reading somewhere that you need to feel worried to make music. I don't know if that was a quote taken out of context, but why do you need to feel worried in sort of to either inspire the creative process?
I guess because a lot of the music I write is asking questions, and not necessarily providing answers to those questions. So a lot of the time my writing process has been kind of just trying to sort something out in my head, like asking a lot of questions of someone, or asking myself questions. So I guess that's where it's come from. But I think I said that a long time ago, and I'm trying to not rely on that anymore, because obviously if you want to be a songwriter for the rest of your life, you kind of have to be able to write in many different emotional circumstances. So yeah, hopefully, I feel a bit worried right now, and I'm writing a lot, so who knows? Maybe I do have to be worried.
A little bit of a coping mechanism. Yeah. It never hurt anyone. But you do pose a ton of huge questions on Don't Let the Kids Win. Is there anything that you sort of want people to take away from that album, or sort of answers that you might want them to arrive at by sort of the time they finish it?
Not really. I mean, I don't think I've ever written music with a purpose. It's more, all I hope is that my small life, and the small things that I've experienced and the things that I sing about, just mean something to other people. And that's always really nice, and for people to take what they want from it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to talk about my own music in that way without sounding like a bit of a arrogant loser. Being like, I want people to come away with a sense of, whatever from my music. So I don't know, whatever they want.
Totally. That sounds good to me. So you're playing Newport Folk, although I know that you had a folk band before this. You might not be the sort of the most traditional folk act, but there are folk influences. So how do you sort of avoid the tropes of like folk music? If that makes sense, like the not writing about mountaintops and rivers and just having a depressing...
Stones and bones.
Stones and bones, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think that I try and remember that I am 26 and Australian and not, 45 and, from Alabama, which is what I think at the beginning when you write folk music, you feel like you have to write about, like the railroads of America or something. I tried to be specific to my age and where I live and my experiences as someone growing up now. And I think that that's, for me, is a good way to avoid those kind of traditional tropes of folk music. And, I did grow up in the mountains, so I could sing about the mountains, but I became a musician in the city, so I think I sing more about the city than nature. Yeah.
Of course. And the songs have more of an optimistic tone, I would say, than, it's certainly not a light album, but it's not a particularly depressing album either. So where would you say you get your hope and your optimism from as you're tackling these tough questions?
I think it's just about, looking at other artists who do these things well. Like, for me, Leonard Cohen obviously is a great songwriter and inspiration to millions of musicians, I'm sure. But for me, he was kind of a big moment where I was like, oh, you can sing about really sad, dark, depressing things, but if you have a sense of humour, or if you can present it with like a certain amount of lightness. And that's what I always try to do, because especially now that I tour, I've been on tour for a year, I've realised the importance as well of, I don't know if I could get up every night and sing deeply, soully depressing music. I think it would destroy me. So I try to keep it light for myself.
Another really interesting thing sort of when I was researching this is that you once said coming of age is just realising how hard you have to work to get what you want.
Yeah.
Well, how was that sort of a realization that you came to?
I think I'm sure, most people my age and, in their 20s or whatever realise this in a way, it's just part of growing up, of finishing university and thinking like, you go to high school and it's like, oh, I'll have a gap year, I'll go find myself somewhere, and then I'll go to university, and then I'll finish university, and then all these opportunities will just be lying there waiting for me. And obviously that doesn't happen for most people. It was just kind of finishing. It was just realizing as well that I was I was a good singer. I did classical music, and people said I had a nice voice, and thinking like, oh, okay, well, I'll just become a singer. And then you start getting into the music industry, and you're like, okay, that's not how this works at all. You have to play hundreds and hundreds of bad gigs, and you have to write hundreds and hundreds of bad songs, and you have to go through a lot of rejection to get, anywhere. I think most people, I'm sure some people skip that whole bit, but yeah.
Well, it certainly makes you sort of a stronger musician to sort of go through that bit too. I would like to think.
I think so. Because it can be pretty trying, continuing to make records, and so I think you get a thick skin if you face a bit of rejection at the beginning. Yeah.
There you go. And then, so this album, Don't Let the Kids Win, it sort of is a lot about the aging process and sort of maturing. I never really felt the years blended together until I turned 18 to 19. And when I turned 19, I went, wow, I really feel like I sort of aged a year between 18 and 19. Was there any year that was sort of like for you, where you sort of had a birthday or really a moment where you realized this sort of isn't what it was like before?
I think 24.
24, that's what I have to look forward to.
24 to me was I think a lot of people feel that at 24, because there's something about just 24 that doesn't sound as woohoo, I'm 22, and 23 you're still a bit aha, I'm 23. Not really explaining this well, but 24 felt whoa, okay, this is an adult age, and I have no idea what I'm doing. And I really thought, when I looked at my life as a 16-year-old, I was by the time you're 24, you're gonna you're gonna have nailed it. You're gonna have all your ducks in a row, and I had 0 ducks in any rows. So that was a tough year. And then I was just make a record before you're 25. That can be a goal, and that's what I did. So.
Wow. Yeah. 16-year-old Julia had high expectations.
She did. She had really high expectations. Yeah.
Well, I would say this record lived up to those expectations. You got it out before 25, which was a total plus. Yeah. What would you say was the toughest part of making it?
Toughest part? Making it wasn't particularly tough. It was more the year following it, leading up to releasing it, I found. Because when I made it, I'd written all the songs myself. I didn't have a manager. I didn't have any labels like coming in on it. It was just me and the producer and like a couple of my friends, and it was very insular and small and just like, I didn't feel much pressure because I was like, if it's bad, then that's all on me. It was more like finishing it and then the waiting process of waiting for it to come out, because that was like a whole year of questioning whether or not it was actually good or not. So that was tough, yeah.
Well, it must be nice to have that question answered now. It's sort of like it's one of those albums that always pops up in those like best of the year lists that I've found.
Yeah, it was a big relief.
Perfect. Well, we're at the Sinclair, which is both a bar and restaurant. If you go to the bar and there might be karaoke there, what is your karaoke go-to?
Give me the beat, boys, and free my soul. I wanna get lost in your rock and roll and drift away.
The lyrics were not anywhere in this dressing room. That was right off the cuff.
It's always a bit of a risk because it's pretty like down tempo,
Yeah.
But I always find it like at a certain point of the night when there's been heaps of like pop music playing, people are like, yes, we need this. So yeah.
Perfect. Well, and this will be my last question for you. I'm sure you have a sound check to get to. But what are you listening to right now? Who has your ear?
Right now, I am listening to the new Aldous Harding record. She's from New Zealand, and she is the reason that I recorded in New Zealand, because I loved her first record, which was released like 3 years ago, I think. And so I've kind of just been like dying for this new record, and it came out yesterday. And I've just been in like this headphone little world in the tour van, just soaking it in, and it's amazing.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, if you are looking for something to listen to, look no further. Don't Let the Kids Win is an incredibly strong album, and Julia is all over the United States this summer too, right? Mm-hmm. So you might even get a chance to see it played live. I'm really looking forward to it tonight and again at Newport Folk in a couple of months. Julia, thank you for the time today.
Thank you so much.